Welcome to the third episode of podcast series SPARCNEXUS Journeys That Inspire. Born in Jodhpur, India and brought up in US, she's a woman who knows what she wants out of a career and has the talent and potential to make it happen. Graduated from Stanford University, she ran her own PR and advertising agency for 30 long years. Today, we have Alka Joshi, author of New York Times best-selling novel, The Henna Artist, to share with us her awe-inspiring journey and insights. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Same wise. Once again, we heartily welcome you to our episode of SPARCNEXUS, and we are very delighted to have Mrs. Alka Joshi on board with us. Now, ma'am, we will just start with our first round for the podcast. It would be a kind of a short interview wherein we will be asking you some questions related to your life journey, which will further provide information to our viewers. So, are you ready, ma'am? Should we begin?
Yes, please.
Okay, so firstly, we would like to ask you about your experience with marketing. After graduating from Stanford University, what was it that made you want to pursue a career in marketing? Moreover, what made you decide to establish a marketing firm and what was that experience like? Over to you, ma'am.
I had no idea that I was ever going to get into marketing. That wasn't a plan that I had for myself. What I really wanted to do was have a creative life. My BA from Stanford is in art history because I love art history. I even spent my junior year in Florence, Italy, to learn about Renaissance art through the university program. And I just love that experience so much. I love learning about all kinds of different periods of art. But my father interjected and he said, look, if you are going to be self-sufficient financially, you need to get realistic about a career. An artistic career may not be the path that you want to start with. Why don't you get some basic grounding in business? So I entered something called a management training program with Prudential Insurance Company first. I worked in Los Angeles, got myself an apartment, started working. And for 4 years, I worked in various departments of the insurance trade. And what I learned was something super important. It was how to make presentations to all kinds of management level people and CEOs. I also learned how to manage a group of people. I learned how to put together a project brief and then follow through on making sure that we were successful. So I learned all of these things. And at the end of 4 years, I said to my father, okay, I have gone as far as I can go learning from this particular profession. Now I want to go back and pursue that creative career that I always wanted. And my next job was working in a newspaper doing paste up. Now, way before there were newspapers, we actually hand cut pieces of articles together and pasted them down on these big boards, and then the boards were sent to the printers, and that's how newspapers were printed. So I got a job like that. It didn't pay very much money per hour, but it was a way that I could support myself while I took classes in creative endeavors. And by now I had learned that there was something called graphic design that I could be involved in. I had learned that there was something called commercial art, where maybe I could become an illustrator. And then I learned that in advertising, there were art directors who were very creative in putting together the visual look of commercials and ad campaigns. So I thought, aha, that's what I want to do. So while I was studying and taking these classes, I was also working at the newspaper. In 2 years, I had enough of a portfolio together that I thought, okay, I am ready now to go pitch myself at ad agencies. I did that, and I did it very creatively. I did it in the way that I would not recommend everybody do it, but I put together a query letter that said, my sister is 28 years old. It was ostensibly a letter from my older brother, and she has forgotten to get married and to have children. So we are going to have to support her for the rest of our lives unless you give her a job. And would you believe it, that from that strange query letter, I ended up getting 4 interviews at ad agencies in San Francisco. It was amazing. So, I am at the ad agency that I really want to work for is this big international firm called McCann Erickson. And I know that they also have branches in India. So I thought, I want to work on big budgets. I want to work on big clients. This is where I want to be. Well, I was showing my portfolio to my creative directors, and they're interviewing me, and they're looking at my portfolio, and they're saying, so why do you want to work in an ad agency? And I said, I want to be an art director. And they said, well, clearly it shows in your portfolio that you know how to write. You know how to write headlines, you know how to write body copy, you understand the entire intention of these ad campaigns. I said, well, yes, but I want to be an art director, because I'd always seen myself as artistic. And they said, listen, we have a job for a junior copywriter. We'll hire you for that, but we won't hire you as an art director because we don't even have a position available for art director. That's how I got into advertising. And then from there, I had a wonderful run at all kinds of different clients. And this is where my business side came in handy. I was making pitches to new clients. I was learning how to put together entire projects and manage them, and present outcomes to different clients. So I love doing that. And from there, I got hired by a PR firm that was owned by BBDO Advertising. They said, listen, we have heard that you are really good at pitching clients, and we need somebody to be our director of integrated marketing. Integrated marketing means that you're not only going to handle the advertising, but also any kind of marketing brochures, trade shows, events that the client wants. So I said, okay, great. I was getting paid a lot more money. So I became the director of integrated marketing. And after only a year and a half, I thought to myself, wait a second, I am managing these huge projects. I am hiring freelancers to put these projects together. I could just do this on my own. Why do I need to work for another agency to do that? So to prepare myself, I made a list of all of the things that I would need in order to run my own business. I needed a printer, a laptop, a cell phone, and a fax machine. Now, remember, this is the 1990s, okay, the late 1990s. So I am putting all of these things together. And I realized that I would need about $10,000 of capital, which I had saved up. And then I would need to make sure that I had business to keep me afloat. So I started calling up everybody I knew. And by now, my friends from Stanford and from other places were running big marketing firms or marketing departments. And I said, listen, can I come in and make a pitch? Can I come in and just tell you what I can do and then see if you'll hire me? They said, sure, yeah. And while you're pitching me, why don't you also go across the way and pitch to the this other department and then that other department and so on. So for 2 months after I quit my job and started my agency, all I did was pitch. I pitch every single day. I was pitching people. And then within 2 months, I had secured enough contracts to last me the year. And so then my next, goal was, okay, how in the world am I going to keep doing this work, right? Like now I've got the business. Now I need to complete the projects that I said I could do. And so then, that kind of rolls into what I did for the next 30 years, which is to hire people for different projects as they came along. And I wanted my agency to remain nimble. So I did not have full-time employees. I didn't want to deal with all the paperwork and the machinations of taking care of other people and their families. I wanted to hire the best people for whatever project I was being hired to do. And that is the pattern that I continued all of those years. So yes, I ended up doing advertising and marketing and PR in my agency because those were all the skills that I had learned in all of my jobs.
Yes.
Ma'am, that was really interesting and inspiring at the same time.
Good.
So I'm talking about the time when you started your organization. So what were the various fears and apprehensions that you thought about before, starting your organization? Also, when did you realize the firm was becoming successful? What were the unique strengths that made it prosperous? Like when you look back at your time, what is that one moment, proud of yourself for being the CEO and founder of your PR agency?
You know, for me, it was after that first 2 months when I realized that I was very good at pitching and I was very good at selling myself to people. When you start your own business, it's not just the skills of the business that you are selling yourself as a person. You are selling yourself as somebody whom they can trust to finish the job. Now, my biggest worry was, how am I going to finish some of these projects when I've never handled them before? For example, I was hired by a company to do a huge, trade show, and I had done little events before, corporate events, but I had never done a huge trade show. But when they said, listen, we need you to do this big trade show, did I say, no, I've never done that before? No, not at all. Because you know what? This is what men in business do all the time. They say, of course I can do that. And then they figure out how. And so I thought, of course I can do that. And then I figured out how to do every single one of those projects. So I knew within the first 2 months I was going to be successful. And within that first year of business, I had billed $400,000. Now this is $1995. So that was, more money even for 1995. So, I knew then that at the end of the day, I had the skills to convince clients that I would do a great job on whatever project they hired me for, and I could deliver the goods. And I delivered on time, and I worked my tail off to make that happen. I worked nights, I worked weekends. I didn't think there was hardly a moment when I wasn't working on the business. Every single moment that you're working, you are thinking about the business, you are calling somebody about the business, you are talking to another freelancer whom you want to hire for a project. So every single moment was consumed with thinking about the business. And so I think my biggest fear, I wouldn't be able to manage the business, or I wouldn't be able to get enough business, or that I wouldn't be able to accomplish the project that I had signed on for. Those fears completely evaporated after the first couple of months, because I realized, hey, all I have to do is hire really good people and pay them well. And I hired only women. This is my big tip to anybody out there who is starting a business. Women work so much harder than men. So I think that we have such a resource in women, and I just hired women to do all of my projects. I am so happy I did that.
That's really motivating, hiring only women, because it is the era of women empowerment. And also, oh, I can do this, and then you figure out how to do that. That's really motivating.
Good.
That's a nice thing.
Okay, so the next question we have is, what is something you wish you had known before opening the agency, which would have actually been of huge help? What is your success mantra in, entire journey of yours? What would be your advice to the people who are looking for pursuing the similar career as yours?
I think my biggest advice to anybody looking to form their own company is that you should be confident in the skills that you have. You have everything you need in here to do everything that you say you're going to do. You actually have everything you need within your body, within your mind. When you don't have a particular skill that you're going to need for a project, hire someone to fill that gap. And once again, hire a woman to fill that gap, because she will fill it in a way you never thought possible. One of the other things that I wish I had actually practiced more in my business was to retain clients that I had done excellent work for, and keep in touch with them and make sure I was always communicating with them before I moved on to other clients. Now, this is something I forgot to do. I was so busy chasing after work and making sure that I had enough business to keep it going, right? Because you need business that is going to keep you busy for the next 3 months, for the next 6 months, and then 9 months after that, and then a year after that. I was so busy chasing after the work that I forgot to maintain those long-standing relationships with clients. I wish I had done that, because that is going to stand you in good stead no matter where you go. For example, sometimes when we had a recession and I needed to look for more work, I would call up an old client and I would say, hey, you know, how are you doing? I noticed that you were in the paper because, you know, you just got this big award or you did this big event. And I just, you know, wanted to congratulate you. And they would say, oh, Alka, I have a project coming up that would be perfect for you. So when you maintain those relationships, constantly, work just comes your way without you having to chase it. And I wish that I had learned that much earlier in my life, rather than letting go of some of those clients whom I had done great work for, but then, you know, I just forgot about them when I moved on to other places.
Yes.
Yeah, I hope so
About-
that tricks would help us when we move out in the corporate world.
Yes, I think that's going to be super helpful for anybody who moves out into the corporate world. Even in the corporate world, I don't think I realized what this whole networking thing was all about. You know, I thought that it just meant that you had to go to meetings and shake hands with people and introduce yourself. But no, it goes deeper than that. So what you really need to do with networking is when you are faced with people in a project, or let's say in a company department, whom you like, let's say there's certain people there that you're just going to naturally gravitate towards because you like them, you have common interests, you know, make sure that you get to know them on this other level, on a personal level, and just say, hey, you know, let's grab lunch, let's grab, you know, dinner. I think that first, once again, when you're a woman and you do that to another woman, it's a lot easier. When you do it to a man, they can get the wrong idea. This is another reason why I have always found it easier to work with women. Men can get the wrong idea and they think that somehow you might be coming on to them. So for me, it was always easier to approach another woman on a project that I really liked, or another woman whom I met through, let's say, an organization that I was involved in. And then I would say, hey, you know, you're a very interesting person. Let's grab lunch sometime and let's talk about projects that you work on. I'll talk about projects I work on, and let's see if there's some symbiosis.
Yeah. That's great. So, ma'am, moving over to the next question. Your first book, The Henna Artist, was published in 2020. And speaking of that, I really like your background. So, what made you want to write that book, and how would you describe your journey throughout writing it? If asked to attribute its success to, who would you attribute to?
You know, I'm going to start with whom I would attribute my success to. Number one, it has to be my parents, because my parents gave me so much in life, just in terms of the freedom that they allowed me to choose my own career, to choose my own partner in life, to choose my own family, whether I wanted to have children or not. These were all decisions that they left up to me. And they always said to me, you know how to support yourself financially. You will make it. You will be there. So these are great things for parents to be able to tell their children, and then for children to be able to act on them, because you do need to act on the freedoms that are given to you instead of taking them for granted. So I know that what started for me with this journey at the age of 51, learning how to write a novel, I wanted to recreate a life for my mother that she didn't have. You know, she had an arranged marriage at 18. She had 3 children by the time she was 22. She never got to have a career. She had a very traditional marriage with my father. And so I thought, what if I could give her all the freedoms that she has always allowed me? What if I created a woman in fiction, in the Henna Artist, where, and here's the paperback. It just came out on April, you know, it's coming out on April the 6th. I'm so excited. But what if I could give Lakshmi in the Henna Artist some kind of a career, and she becomes a henna artist so that she doesn't have to have any other kind of formal schooling. But what if I could give her a career that helps her to sustain herself, and then she uses her wits to make that career even stronger, even more compelling, so that elite women from all over Jaipur are hiring her to do her work. So it was really fun for me to do this and to reimagine my mother in another life. Then there were all of the editors who helped me with the book. There was my agent who made a lot of suggestions in the book. There were all those reviewers, my thesis advisors in the master's program where I first started learning how to write a novel. There were all of the people along the way, my brothers, my friends, everybody who read the novel then, had something to tell me about how to make it a better novel. And I think that one of the main things, whether you have a business or whether you're writing a book, you have to know that you can't do it by yourself. It's very difficult to do all of it by yourself, and that there are so many people who will help you along the way. You have to take help. You have to ask people for help, and you have to listen to their advice. You can't just ignore it once you ask them. So I think so many people have helped me make the success of the Henna Artist what it is today. It's being translated into 23 languages. It's been sold into 31 territories, and it's coming out in paperback. And then there is a movie, TV development in the works. So that is an amazing success for a first novel. And I could not have done this without the support of all of the people who have helped me get here. Another thing that I want to tell people about writing that I learned is that, it takes a lot of patience and perseverance to do something that you are determined to do. The Henna Artist took me 10 years to write, not because I'm a slow writer, but because I was supporting myself, working at the same time, right? To pay my bills, pay my mortgage. And I was also doing, my exercising, and I'm taking time off from the writing so that I can have some distance from all of the feedback that I'm getting so that I can make it a better book. So I'm doing all of these things. And I just took the time that it needed to become the book that it is today. This is the 30th draft of the book that people are reading. And it takes many, many, many hours to become good at whatever it is you're doing, whether it's advertising or marketing or being an author. And, I think that 3 things really stand you in good stead. I call them the magic of the 3 Ps. One is passion. What are you passionate about? What do you want to write about? What do you want to do in your life? You have to be passionate about it. You have to love it. And secondly, the second P is perseverance. You have to stick to it. There are many times when I was writing the Henna Artist when I just wanted to quit. I wanted to stop because it wasn't coming together, or it wasn't the book I wanted it to be, or an editor was telling me it still could be improved, and I didn't want to hear that. So I took time off, but I persevered. I kept coming back to it over and over and over again. And then I think the very third P in my magic set of 3 Ps that I like to tell people is patience. You have to have patience with yourself. You are not going to become fabulous at something on your first try. Olympic skiers, Olympic runners, those people have been practicing their craft since they were kids. Since they could walk, they have been doing what they're doing. Of course, by the time they're 16 or 20, they are fabulous at what they're doing because they have spent so many hours making it. So it's going to take you many hours of work to perfect your craft, whatever it is, whether it's writing an article for a paper, whether it's learning how to sell shoes. It's just going to take you a long time to do it. And you have to be patient with yourself, and you have to give yourself a break. You have to say, you know what? I may not be great at this right now, but someday I'm going to get great at it.
The plot of the book looks really amazing. We would love to read that book, and I hope our audience would adopt your magic 3 Ps in their life also, and they would also succeed in their life.
Oh gosh, I spoke in 2019. I spoke at a university in Mumbai, and it was a management class. So it was a advanced education. They were getting their MBAs. And one question that I was asked by a young gentleman, is, I want to become a filmmaker, but my parents want me to go into their business, and I'm supposed to take over their business. How do I get beyond that? And I think this is a lot of pressure that young people in India do feel, when there's a family business, they are expected to take it over. Now, without knowing all of the personal, relationships within that family, what I said to the gentleman is, go ahead and learn as much as you can from your family business. Learn how to manage people, learn how to manage projects, learn how to deliver to people what you said you were going to deliver, when you said you were going to deliver it. Be clear in your intentions and follow through. A lot of young people forget to follow through. They'll make all kinds of excuses. They'll say, oh, I got busy doing something else, so I couldn't prepare that paper. Or, my parents were sick, and so I had to take care of them, so I didn't get to study for this test. But you know what? You can always make the time to do a better job and to excel at whatever it is you're doing. So I said to the young gentleman, learn as much as you can from that business, learn good work habits, and then at some point, figure out how you can put somebody else in your place who is going to manage that business for you. And you say to your parents, okay, now I am going to go pursue the thing that is my passion, that I'm going to persevere at, and that I'm going to be patient with myself to learn all over again.
Absolutely, ma'am. To be very honest, this is very frequent question asked over here. So I hope our audience would be able to get something out of this.
Excellent.
Okay, so moving over to the next question. So have you ever imagined your career as it is today back when you were in college? And how do you think your qualifications and college experience have shaped your personality?
I never would have expected to become an author. I also never expected to run my own agency. I think that at 18 or at 22 or at 26, none of us know what we want to be in our lives. We may have ideas. Like, I knew I wanted a creative life. I just didn't know what form it would take. And it has taken many different forms, as I described to you. So I think that all along, you have to be open to new opportunities. And this is something that my education at Stanford really made available to me. I got this fantastic liberal arts education, which meant that I learned about history, I learned about art, I learned about global politics and global economics, and it was all done with a very global framework. So I understood how the world worked. In almost any situation I could be in, I can look at the situation and say, okay, here is what these people are trying to do. Here's where they're trying to go. Here are the ways in which they're trying to do it. Are those ways right or are they wrong? Let's analyze them. So I think that what Stanford taught me is that there is such a larger world out there to get to know, rather than just focusing on, okay, I'm going to be an engineer, so I'm just going to focus on engineering now. No, focus on the larger world, because that's where you're going to make the most inroads into whatever it is that you're interested in. That's where you're going to contribute the most, is in that global kind of sphere, the global understanding of the work that you are doing. So I was also at Stanford, I think, taught to take advantage of new opportunities. And I think this is where, when I was in my business with my agency, and people would say, hey, can you make us a movie about our corporate culture? And I would say, sure, why not? Because I'll find somebody to teach me how to do that work, and we will make the best darn movie that you have ever seen. So you have to be open to new opportunities. And instead of saying, no, I can't do it, say, yes, I can figure out how to do it. So always be open to new opportunities. And then I think throughout my life, I have kept learning new skills. I went to get my master's at the age of 51, when a lot of young classmates of mine were in their 20s. And, don't ever think that you stop learning. Just because you found one career at the age of 20 or 30 doesn't mean that you stick with that career and those are the only skills you will ever have in your life. Try to learn something else in your free time at night or on weekends, gain a new skill. And now with the pandemic and with the internet and all of these online classes that we can take, learn something new all the time. It expands the pathways in your brain to keep going, to keep improving, and it'll probably stave off Alzheimer's. And then I think the last thing that I would recommend to people is that you pay it forward. So I try to do this in whatever I do. I try to make opportunities available to young women, because that is important. Opportunities available to young people who are hungry to learn. That is also important. And then I also pay forward with the income that I make, and try to help people who are less fortunate than I am. I have been very fortunate in my life. I'm fortunate. I thank the universe every day that I was born into a family that was middle class, that could afford to give me an education. I am thankful every day that I was born to parents who allowed me a lot of freedom to make choices of my own. I am thankful that I have a husband, and that I chose a husband who is very emotionally supportive, so that even when I am experiencing a bout of self-doubt or insecurity or depression, he is able to help me, lift me out of it, and just say, you will get there eventually. Maybe not right now, but you will get to where you're going eventually. These are all things that are so important. And I want to be able to pay those kinds of messages forward also to the women I encounter and to the young people I encounter in whatever profession they want to succeed in.
Ma'am, that's really a positive approach towards life. Really. We
And,
appreciate it.
yeah, and we all need that. We all need people in our lives who help us move forward. My father, he is 88 years old, and he is still a huge support for me. Like when I think, the other day I was talking to him and I said, Dad, what if the Henna Artist and the Secret Keeper of Jaipur, the sequel that's coming out on June 22nd here in the United States and Canada and the UK, I said, what if these two books are the only two books I ever write? What if nothing happens of the TV series that's in development? And he said, well, honey, you can't do anything about things that are outside of your control. So basically, enjoy every day as it comes. Enjoy your health, because that is really important. Take care of yourself. Keep doing the exercising that you do to make sure that you're healthy every single day, so you have energy to accomplish all of the tasks. And that's all you can ask of yourself. So yeah, we all need those kind of wise people in our lives to keep reminding us that we can make it, we can do it.
Yes, ma'am, I definitely agree. It's always that one motivation that keeps you through and takes you where you want to be. Just like,
Yes.
yeah, there would be many people, who face a lot of challenges while pursuing their dream career. So what was your biggest challenge, when you started your career and you decided that this is the career that you want to choose? What will be, the most important lesson that you learned in your life?
The most important lesson, well, I think it was just, be open to whatever life throws at you. And there are always going to be obstacles in your path. There are always going to be issues with, can you get something done? What if something happens and it screws up your deadline? There are always things that are going to come in your path. And I tried to, in the Henna Artist, my main character is always encountering obstacles. But the way that you deal with those obstacles, rather than getting angry or getting too stressed out, if you can calm yourself down, you will find a way around those obstacles. And I think that that is one of the biggest, lessons that I've learned. And I think it's one of the biggest lessons that we can all carry around with us at all stages of our lives. Because, life is not perfect, and we are not perfect, and there are always going to be obstacles.
Agreed, ma'am. So, ma'am, with this, we move to our next section, which is called the Game of the Spark, and we will be asking you some short, quick, and fun questions. You will be expected to answer them in a very crisp manner. It would be basically a kind of a rapid fire round, and one word or a phrase will do the needful. So, ma'am, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, ma'am. So, a fun activity or a skill that you cultivated during quarantine.
Patience.
Okay. moving ahead to the second question, a book you are currently reading.
It's called The Lost Apothecary.
Okay, ma'am. So what is that one thing that you don't want to be doing in next 10 years?
That I don't want to be doing?
Yes, you don't want to be doing.
Oh, I don't want to be doing my taxes every year.
That's a witty escape.
That is like the most boring thing on.
So what is that one thing that you don't want to be doing in next 10 years?
I don't want to be doing taxes. I really can't stand all of the time and energy that goes into them. I wish we had a flat tax and I'll be happy to pay it. I just don't want to spend the time and energy looking for all of those receipts.
That was a really witty answer. So ma'am, what is your favorite cuisine?
Indian, absolutely. I love Indian food. It has always been my favorite cuisine. I love aloo gobi ki sabji, and I like kheer, and I like aloo ka paranthas. Those are my three favorites.
That's great. Aloo ka paratha is the staple food of Indians.
Oh, yeah, and you know, it's like it's a whole meal in itself. You don't need anything else. Maybe some dahi, and yeah, and that's it. That's all you need.
Great. So ma'am, what is that most adventurous thing you have done so far?
I rock climbed. You know, I've scaled a cliff. And I'm going to tell you right now, I will never, ever do it again. Ever, ever, ever. I will never do that again.
Why?
Because it scared me so much. There was a point at which, you know, when you're climbing, you have these boulders that you have these jutting out rocks that come above you, and you have to somehow scale them by almost like lying flat on your back and crawling up them like an ant might. And it scared me so much that I was frozen in place. And I said to my climbing partner, who was already up at the top of the cliff, I said, I cannot move. And he said, Alka, you have to move because it's turning into nighttime. And once it's nighttime, I cannot see you and I cannot get you back up here. So I just had to grit my teeth and I had to get beyond my fear to get up to the top. Now, do you think that somehow made me want to do it again and again and again? No, I just said to myself, that was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. I am never going to do it again. And I'm never going to look down from a cliff, like ever.
All right, ma'am. So the last question from my side, who is your role model?
Oh, you know, I think I have so many role models because you need different role models for different things. And so I have all of these female role models, people that I really look up to. I do look up to Kamala Harris. I think I've been following her career for many years now because I live in California, and she has been in San Francisco and California politics for a very long time. I think that any woman like that who has braved the patriarchal corporate world and figured out how to become a leader in it is remarkable. And I think we have to, and she also seems like a very warm human being. You know, she hasn't had to give up her womanhood in order to become as successful as she is. So I really appreciate that about her. You know, my father is a hero of mine. I think that he came from a small village near Alwar in Rajasthan. And he just, because he was so smart, his teachers really propelled him to go to the next town and then the next town and the next town after that, just to get him to bigger and better schools. And his father, you know, went along with it because his father was so busy making his own living that he wasn't really worried about his son. And, you know, ultimately my father became a globe-trotting engineer and then a professor. And he taught at the University of Calgary up in Canada for 24 years after he had been in private practice as a consulting engineer. So he's done an amazing thing. I mean, his life has been, I think, the subject of a movie. He has done far more, I think, in his life, come much farther in his life than I have. And I just think that that's, pretty remarkable. So yeah, I appreciate that. I think my husband is a role model for me because he has a lot of patience. And he also forgives himself for things that he is not perfect at. And I still struggle with needing to be perfect, wanting to be perfect, even though I know in my rational mind that I am never going to be perfect. I still want so much for everything to come out absolutely right.
Yes, ma'am. So coming on to the next question, what would you choose, Alka the author or Alka the marketer?
Oh, Alka the author, definitely. Yeah, I love the creativity that writing affords me. These are all my characters from my head, from my imagination. These are the accumulation of all of the experiences I've had and the skill sets I've developed that I get to put into the Henna Artist. I don't have to take direction from a client.
Yes, ma'am. Your favorite social media platform and why?
Instagram is my favorite social media platform because it's so visual. And, I told you that I started out my life wanting to be an artist, wanting to be a creative person. So for me, Instagram fulfills all of those needs. I can post pictures of my mother from the 1950s. I can post pictures of India, Jaipur, Jodhpur, Udaipur, all of those places that I love. I can also post pictures of Indian food that make me really hungry. I can post so many things that are visual about the books that I have written and also about the things I love in my life and treasure, like, my mother and her saris and her, wedding dowry and all of that. I love all of those things. And so Instagram allows me to post everything like that and just a little burst here and a little burst there. I adore it.
And we all adore Instagram. So what would you want to be if given a chance to be reborn?
Wow. Oh, I don't think I've ever thought about this before. Okay, if I had a chance to be reborn, I think I would come back as a much loved dog. Because I have 2 dogs who are very well loved. And I cannot imagine a better life than the only purpose to their life is to make us happy, is to eat and sleep and be around us. And I think what a great life they have. They are fed and all they have to do in return is to give us love. What a wonderful way to live. What amazing souls they must be. And my husband has always said that I think if you are good in this life, you get to come back as a well-loved dog. So that is what I would like to be.
Ma'am, which has been your favorite fictional or movie character?
I have to say that one of my favorite characters is Jane Eyre from the Charlotte Bronte book. And the reason for that is because Jane is a very plain woman and she's also plain spoken. So there's nothing that you can say, oh, Jane succeeded because she was pretty. Jane succeeded because she was brilliant. Jane succeeded because she was born to a wealthy family. She doesn't have any of those advantages. And yet she knows herself. She knows that she deserves a life of self-esteem and a life that affords her the kind of satisfaction that she deserves. She just knows that these are things about her that deserve attention, that deserve encouragement, and that deserve, I don't know, like loyalty. I think she just knows herself. And she doesn't have any of the advantages that a lot of us have, but she makes her life amazing regardless.
Yes, ma'am. The very last question of a rapid fire round. Which would you choose, India or California?
At this point, I would choose California. And the reason for that is because I think that women here in California have many more choices available to them. There isn't an entire society or societal family that is looking at me and saying, I disapprove of this choice that you've made. I disapprove of that choice that you've made. And I think that in India, the way that the culture is set up, the family is still very strongly in control of someone's future. And especially, I think, with women. They are so much in control of a woman's future. And just by dint of the ability to say, I don't approve of this. I don't think you should do this. And, you know, young people are trained to really look to their families for direction. Whereas here in California, young people are not trained to look at their families for direction. They are always told from the time they are little, they are going to have to find their own direction in life. So that your mindset from the very young age is set to be somebody who is going to look for your own path in life. And I think that is such a different mindset. So I appreciate that Western mindset a lot more. I think just because that's the way I have been raised. So I don't think I could really get into the Indian mindset at this point in my life. I could have had I been raised there, but at this point I can't.
Okay, ma'am, we agree with you. So it was really a fun segment. So with this, we come to our very last segment, wherein we would like to ask you to give your final advice to our viewers and to the students who are pursuing the same career path just like you.
Okay, so the three things I would make sure I tell every young person who is pursuing a career: be open to new opportunities, say yes more than you say no to new career opportunities, new skills to learn. Always keep learning, never stop learning, always keep taking classes in whatever you want, even if it's like pottery. Let's say that you are a medical doctor and you want to do something new, take pottery, take something totally different from the actual work that you do to pay your bills. And then lastly, pay it forward. If you can help somebody else advance in their career because of things that you have learned, then please help them.
Yes, ma'am. That advice will definitely, help the people who are looking forward to pursue the same.
And Riva, I think that one of your questions was also come up with a hashtag for this episode. All right, so yes, my hashtag is the same hashtag that I use for every week. I do these interviews on Instagram, and I call that episode series Reimagine. So that is what I would like for everybody out there to use as a hashtag Reimagine. Reimagine your life as somebody different. Reimagine your life as somebody you hadn't expected to be. Reimagine the skills that you are cultivating as advancing much faster than you think they can advance. Just reimagine your life, because this is the only life right now. This is the life you're leading. Don't be looking at the life 20 years from now or 10 years behind you. You know, it's only the present that we get to live. So live this life to the fullest that you can.
Ma'am, that is such an adorable hashtag. So with this, we would like to thank you for joining us and guiding us with your insightful thoughts. We hope our viewers had a great time and was able to learn some life-changing advices from you, ma'am. We once again thank you all for joining us. And till then, stay tuned for our next episode of SPARCNEXUS. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, you guys.